I've got Eddie Lorin with me. Eddie, welcome to the show.
So nice to be with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to share with people what you've got going on, man. You're not only a guy that buys apartments, but you buy apartments and make a difference in people's lives. And so let's jump right in. You talk about the triple net return. Tell us what you mean by the triple net return.
Well, triple net's a single tenant deal. This is a triple bottom line.
Oh, a triple bottom line. Okay. Yeah, I did. I was listening. I guess I just wasn't listening well enough.
That's all right. No problem. So the first bottom line of any real estate investment obviously has to be a financial return, or why would we be doing this? But you can do actually a lot more than just return financial returns. You can give people the decent housing that they deserve, treat them with respect and dignity. We find they stay, pay, and refer their friends. So the second bottom line is an environmental one. We save water, we save electricity, save the carbon footprint, and we actually try to make a difference in society. And by the way, when you save those things, you're saving expenses, and it goes to that financial return. So that's bottom line number two. The third bottom line is we try to make things affordable. So we don't rent to anybody in this entity that makes more than 80% of area median income. Now, area median income is the average median income in each county, and that's the way affordability is tagged. So no one should pay more than 30% of what they make annually as a rule. And so what we do is we're doing our part by making sure that we only rent to people that make no more than 80% of area median income. And the final part of the social bottom line, which is the third bottom line, we promote health and wellness in our apartment communities. Many people go to social programming, they go to the church, their synagogue, they go to the YMCA, but you know what? It's not where they live. We have the advantage where we control the clubhouse where actually the people dwell. So you get a better shot at getting people to come in and enjoy some of the programming and learn, and that sense of community. So that's the third bottom line, which is a social bottom line.
Okay. Well, what kind of programming would you do?
Well, health and wellness, we do cooking classes. We have after school programming because it oftentimes in lower, more disadvantaged communities, the best way to get to the adults is through the kids. So after school, we have teachers and we have community gardens. You can't believe the faces of people when they actually can grow their own food. Some of these people live in food deserts and they've never had the opportunity to really see that they can grow their own food and interact and really have some involvement in their health. We also do Walgreens will bring in, or some other pharmacy to do health screening. So a lot of things surrounding the sense of community, and because a happy, healthy environment is always what's best.
Okay, so now you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I've been in this business for 20 years. I've transformed, either for myself or for others I've worked for, about 40,000 apartment units nationwide. And so we have a simple formula. We go in and we want someone to look at our sign. Imagine a 200 unit apartment building, and we want someone to see their sign and say, wow, that looks really cool. I only wish I could afford to live there. And when you go inside, lo and behold, you can afford to live there. Resort style pools, state-of-the-art fitness centers, beautiful social areas, incredible paint jobs, outdoor kitchens, everything to promote a sense of community, the community gardens, community programming, walking paths, that kind of thing, to create that sense of environment. And then we go in and renovate the interiors as well, and give people value, because they don't pay if they don't get value. That's the bottom line in this world.
Okay.
Right?
So I was going to ask, it sounded like for a minute there, you do ground up development, but when you said you renovate the interiors, it sounds like you're buying existing
Yep,
property.
that's all we've done. It's a much cheaper value proposition to buy at half of replacement cost than build at above replacement cost.
Right.
So I'm a value guy. So that's primarily what we're up to.
So you like to look at distressed apartments, maybe they're vacant or maybe they're mostly vacant. Tell me a little bit about.
Or we see something that someone else doesn't see. That's the whole bottom line, right? I mean, otherwise we'd be beaten by the competition. We win the bids because we have vision. We really take pride in transforming, basic, boring apartment communities into thriving communities. So that's what we are good at, and that's kind of our niche.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing that you we only met a few moments ago, so you probably haven't known about our show, but I've been saying on this show for the last 6 months, if someone can figure out how to provide affordable housing and make money, they are going to make bank, because not very many people are doing that. So you figured this out.
Well, it's quite competitive out there and it's very expensive. You can't always find a deal that works, but to the extent we can be able to buy things and deem them affordable, I think it's a heck of a lot simpler, especially in today's, post-tax reform. It used to be that most tax credit deals got built based on higher taxes. Well, the good news is tax rates are down. The bad news is there's not much savings for companies and banks and insurance companies who invest in getting a tax loss. If your taxes are at 37%, it's much more of a savings by buying these tax credits or losses than at 21%. So now there's less capital available to build affordable housing. So we have to buy existing and deem it affordable. So that's my crusade.
And what it comes back to is buying it right? That's something else we talk about a lot.
That's right.
Yeah. So you have an idea when you look at a distressed property, you have an idea of what it's going to cost to put it into rentable condition. Now, what if you're buying a place and it doesn't have some of these nice amenities that you're talking about, like a pool and so forth? Do you install pools and that sort of thing?
Well, we're buying a deal right now. It's a high rise in Maryland. It's our first deal in the new REIT, impacthousing.com, by the way. What's happening is they don't have a pool because depending on where you're at, you only get 3 months use out of it anyway. So oftentimes it's not always, but in the South, you definitely need a pool. In Texas, 100 degrees for 100 days, absolutely. But just depends where you are. So there's never a good time to do a bad deal or a bad time to do a good deal. That's the point.
All right. Yeah. And we're coming up on our first break, and I was going to have you give that information. So tell people how they can reach out to you. Go ahead and give that website again.
www.impacthousing.com.
All right. And I've got the site up here. It's an interesting little slideshow that you have going on. I'm trying not to be too distracted by it while we're talking here. But hey, we've got to go to a break. He's Eddie. I'm Roger. And we're teaching you about affordable multifamily housing today. And so we'll be right back in just a moment.
Peter Faulkner here. I attended a one-day flip starter training session led by Roger Blankenship, and I was amazed to see what has happened in Roger's life in the last 15 or plus years, flipping over 800 houses. And in this one-day training, he told how he did it and what the pitfalls, the blessings, the benefits, and how to do it. And I was so impressed with how well organized and how smooth the training went today. If you're tempted or encouraged to go, go. It was not a bad price, and if you get a chance to do it, even just to consider investing. But I just want to thank Roger for a great day today and appreciate what he's doing. Thank you, Roger.
And we are back. I'm Roger. He's Eddie. We're talking about multifamily for affordable multifamily for, I don't think we're going to call it low income. It's just people
it's a workforce.
A little less than the median income. All right. So you're providing affordable housing and you're making it work and you're making money. And now Impact Housing is set up as a REIT. Okay?
That's correct. And it's a Reg A plus, which is new. The Jobs Act back in 2012, they passed the opportunity for everyone and anyone, regardless of income level or wealth, to invest directly in private real estate offerings like this. It used to be that only the wealthy could do this. So now, for a minimum of $1,000 investment, if you're accredited or non-accredited, and meaning non-accredited means, you just, like everyone else, we're all trying to make a living here, you can invest in institutional type of real estate directly without those Wall Street guys with the white hair like me.
Yeah. And what he's talking about, people, it's a good thing. I'm happy about the Jobs Act and the result of it, and it makes investing opportunities affordable. Of course, this is why we now have 300 or 500 crowdfunding real estate companies out there. There's nothing wrong with that. And some of them are doing very well. And we've talked about some of them on this show. And so Impact Housing is a crowdfunded REIT. Am I right?
That is correct.
Okay. And, we also talk about different ways to make money. You can do the thing, or you can buy something to rent. You can do a fix and flip, or you can buy something to rent out, and you're going to be involved in both of those. Or you can just put your money to work for you, and you can put your money to work for you in a REIT. That's one of the ways that you can. And so you're providing
Especially
it.
great for IRAs, and real estate should be put into your IRA. That's what
Yes.
people are not always focused on. It's a long-term illiquid investment, because our whole period's 5 to 7 years, because that's how long it takes to transform these pieces of real estate. And it's not money you should live on. It's money you should be putting your IRA into.
Right. Now, you're not saying that if somebody buys shares in your REIT, they have to hold on to them for 5 or 7 years.
No, but I'm saying that's the hold period for our assets. That's
Right.
how it's set up. That's right.
Right. Okay. All right. So when you are looking, if you don't mind me asking a little bit more, let's back up a little bit. General questions about buying distressed apartments, because this is a question that we get quite a bit here. People say, I want to buy apartments, and I want to buy something that's undervalued and fix it up and bring value to it and that sort of thing. What are some of the things you look for when you're out there looking?
Chipped paint, old unkempt landscaping. Nobody answers the phone when you call. Those kind of things. Those common sense things that tell you that this is not, either they're just so rich that they don't care, or there's something wrong.
Okay. I guess, are you looking at the community as well, and the area where you are, if you're going to have a lot of people that fit your demographic?
The market is so tight. There's such a shortage of housing that the issue is not about demand now. It used to be, when after the recession back in 2010 to 12, that was tougher. But right now, there's enough demand for almost every single piece of real estate out there. It's just, if it's not full, there's a reason. And it's either lack of capital or lack of commitment or just stupidity. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for.
Well, I look at apartments that are just sometimes uninhabitable.
Well,
And-
that's true. I mean, you got to buy it right so you can spend the money to make them inhabitable. That's what I'm saying. That's the best shot at making something affordable.
Right.
Again, build new or buy old that aren't, are dilapidated, and we're going to go in and transform them and make them a really clean, safe place for people to live. That's the bottom line.
Okay. So, are you charging then something that looks like a fair market rent? It's just a little bit less than the average. How does that work?
Well, we're just targeting people that make 80% of area median income. Our rents are not capped at all. So we're, whatever the market is, the market is. But they tend to be somewhere between $700 and $900, just because that's kind of the sweet spot for what workforce housing is in some of these suburban areas.
Okay. What other areas are you in besides Baltimore?
We are in Texas, we're in Florida, in Tampa, in Orlando, we're in the Gulf, in New Orleans, in Vegas, and in Southern California.
Okay.
And we also in Colorado Springs. So I have a nationwide footprint. I've been in this business a long time. I know a lot of people, so I get a lot of deal flow just based on all the deals I've done. And so as a result, we have a great footprint and a great access to deals,
Okay.
because if you're a player, then they want to sell to you, and then they want to sell for you. So that's the loyalty and the relationships of years takes to get these things going.
All right. So when you're in these communities, do you do your research on the local market cap rates to kind of figure out where you want to be and kind of go off of that?
Well, it's more, cap rate can be we don't look at cap rate going in. We look at cap rate going out, because you can overpay and, have a low cap rate with no upside, and that's still a low cap rate, but you can have a low cap rate with a lot of upside. That's what you're looking for. What's your stabilized cap rate? What's year 3 look like when you're done fixing and getting those rents to where they need to be?
Yeah. Well, you don't want to buy it that way. You want, you want to have kind of a,
sometimes, you're not going to buy a high cap rate and move the rents higher.
Right.
Tradition, realistically, that's just the way it goes. It's, the cap rates are going to be tight, and then the more upside, the more the opportunity, and the more the landlord or the seller is going to want to capture some of that upside when they sell it. That's the problem. It's a more mature market than it was.
Okay. So if you can hang on through another break, when we get back, I want to ask you a few more questions about how all of this works on your side, and we'll talk a little bit about the end result for your community. Okay?
Pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Learned a whole lot of different things that I didn't know. Learned how to flip houses, learned how to make money in real estate. I learned how to hire contractors. Not only did we get a big overview, but we got into the nitty-gritty details of really understanding how to make money in real estate. It was an education that I wish I would have given to Roger before I gave to the University of Georgia. Pretty powerful. It's actionable information. I can go out tomorrow and start making money with what I learned here today.
And we're back, and we're going to talk a little bit about mechanics and numbers, just a little bit. You say you know people all over the country, and that's how you get your deal flow. And I say all the time, your network is your net worth in this business. And so you've been doing this for a while, but if somebody's breaking into this now and they want to start trying to, get some deals sent to them or something to evaluate, where would you send them? What would you recommend?
Well, there's something called LoopNet.
Yeah.
And that seems to be where everybody lists. Doesn't mean they do business there, but they certainly list there. And that's how you start developing relationships with these brokers. And you meet them and you start to learn the market. You see trends as you study LoopNet, and you see what the market is. And pretty soon you know a good deal, because remember, good deals are made and not found.
Yes. And especially when you're adding value to an apartment complex, I can see. Now, I think of LoopNet as kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. And I've looked at a lot of stuff.
But it's for relationship.
Okay. I've looked at a lot of stuff on LoopNet, but I ended up one time getting a great deal on an office building out of there. So, okay. LoopNet's a good start. And then I guess you end up meeting people who are brokering these, right?
Yeah. And they send you their packages, and you start to underwrite them, and you get to, it's all about knowing what a good deal is. And you don't know a good deal until you have looked at a lot of stuff. And the vast majority of things, once you've digested them, you say, oh, that stands out. That's common sense. I see that. I can change that. I can redo the facade on that, or whatever, that make it more appealing.
We get a lot of questions in here about people who want to buy single family rentals. Why would you say multifamily is better than single family?
I don't want to have any property that I can't have someone there all the time, at least during the business hours. And plus you have maintenance guys who live there at night. But 100 unit plus properties are where it's at, because you have an on-site maintenance and you have an on-site manager. And so you're always going to have someone to deal with the issues. Whereas if you want to have a good life, it's kind of hard to be renting single family unless you have a management company there, but it's not efficient. The efficiency is like for 200 units, the average is 2 in, 2 out, we say. 2 people, a manager, an assistant manager inside, and then 2 maintenance guys outside running around fixing stuff. So to me, that's peace of mind, to know that there's always someone dedicated on site to make sure that those problems are solved quickly. Because the biggest problem is neglect in this real estate, and the big foreclosure issues. And in the Great Recession, what happened was a lot of these lenders ended up over leveraging. They ended up owning these properties, and they didn't know how to manage them. Right. And they didn't spend the time on them. So what happens? Neglect leads to distress. So you don't want to ever let something go, especially where people live.
You talked earlier about saving money, saving the environment by reducing utility bills and that sort of thing. What are some of the strategies you have around that?
Low flow toilets, finding leaks in some of the copper, plumbing, etc. So for instance, this Maryland high rise I have an offer out right now on, we've found that there are 48 townhomes that are owned separately, but one water bill that comes to the high rise. This is 143 units. What's amazing is that one water bill, they're guessing at billing back those individual owners. So what's great about it is we're going to actually put on separate meters and charge those homeowners exactly what they're supposed to be paying. So we saw, based on the financials, that there's just so much waste of water there. So we're really excited about saving water and saving expenses from that standpoint. The second thing is that we know that there are some leaks, and we're going to be able to go in and spend the $100,000 to fix the stacks. And when you fix it up front, it's a great investment and an incredible return on investment long term.
Okay. So it's, right now it's about plumbing. You do anything with,
That's right. And it's about the common areas and lighting too. There's incandescent bulbs still in the hallways. I mean, come on, that's, you can save money just by replacing a light bulb, let alone, sprucing it up, making it brighter, making you feel safer, all those wonderful things that make people be willing to stay and pay and refer their friends.
I want to ask you about this. I love this journey that you're on, really wanting to bring value into people's lives. And I appreciate that and applaud you for it. But there's something that got you started down this path. Tell us a little bit about that.
Really? Oh, wow. Well, I grew up pretty modest means. And I actually lost my father when I was 10 months and my mother when I was 17. I was off to go to UCLA and raise and pay for it myself. So I've always had a drive, and I always knew what it was like to live where at least I had a roof over my head and I had love and respect and dignity. And I saw other people in my world that didn't. We happen to have some relatives who bailed us out sometimes, honestly. And my mother didn't want to accept it, but we did. And that's how we stayed in our home. Well, the government's not always there to help people out. So I feel like it's my job now that I'm in my 50s to really take what I've learned and give back to the world and have a safety net so people can have a decent place to live. There's so many people living in unkempt standards and really horrible environments, and it doesn't have to be that way. A little elbow grease, you can be poor, but you got to be clean. That term, that's what I try to live by. And I think that people deserve and have a right to a decent home. And if we don't solve this affordable housing issue, we're going to have more and more homeless. How ironic is it? How much money are we spending on the homeless? They cost $50,000 a year, each homeless, with health care, et cetera. You could easily put together that same money and put some vouchers and help people out a little bit. So that's what my message is to our government. We really need to help the working poor. And that's not happening. It's not seemingly to be a priority right now. And it really is, or we're going to have a worse problem of people more living on the streets because it's only getting worse. So that's my mission.
I love it. And really, it's a journey of a lifetime for you, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It is.
Well, if people are out there, and I'm sure that there are people out there listening to this right now who want to get involved. So what would be, if they reach out to you on your website and they click on something, what's going to be the next step?
The next step is invest now. They can fish around and see what my track record is and how the returns we've given. It's all there on the website, impacthousing.com. And then when you click invest now, it's a few clicks and you can invest as little as $1,000 and start being part of the solution.
Awesome. And of course, I guess we probably have to say that past performance is no indication of the future. Just to make sure that we keep all the government authorities that may be listening to this broadcast at bay, right?
You got it.
But, if you continue to do business the way you've been doing business, then it's fairly safe to assume that we're going to continue to get the same results.
That's a good assumption. We underwrite. Sure, because we don't do a deal unless we think it meets the metrics that we always want.
Right.
So
I understand that completely. If we can't buy it right, let's just not buy it.
Right. We have what's called my coveted down and dirty. That's our underwriting memo. And if the down and dirty sings, then we go. If it doesn't, we pass.
Okay. All right. Well, sure have enjoyed visiting with you, Eddie. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us. And on behalf of all of the Flipping America listening audience, I want to say thank you for the good that you're doing in the world. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We'll talk again soon.
I look forward to it.